It's time to take a look at what's happening around Wyoming for Friday, July 25th. I'm Wendy Kaur, bringing you headlines from the Cowboy State Daily Newsroom, brought to you by Cheyenne Frontier Days. The 129th Cheyenne Frontier Days ends with a bang for Frontier Nights. Friday, July 25th, we've got Cody Johnson with Randy Hauser, and Saturday, July 26th, Megan Maroney with Waylon Wyatt. When the sun goes down, the stars come out, only at Cheyenne Frontier Days. In October of 2023, 33-year-old Katie Ferguson vanished while traveling home to Wyoming with her on and off boyfriend, Adam Aviles Jr., who was 26 at the time. Now, hikers and other outdoors men and women in Park County are asked to be on the lookout for two objects that could advance the murder investigation into the disappearance of the Cody woman. Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland spoke to the Park County Sheriff and Ferguson's mother about how the public can help in the investigation.
Katie Ferguson's mother, Mona Hartling, reached out to me like, there are still some objects that are believed to be out there, potentially in Park County. Can we let people know to keep an eye out? A pink tote with DNA in it, which an investigator at Adam Aviles sentencing described in much more graphic terms than that, and the front seat to a Dodge Durango, possibly charred or damaged. These are things that just the compilation of interviews and evidence indicate could still be out there somewhere, and if they are, could be opportunities for a breakthrough in the case.
Though long a suspect in what authorities believe to be Ferguson's murder, Aviles has not been charged with murder. He was, however, sentenced in September of last year to 7 years and 3 months in prison for the charge of being a felon in possession of ammunition. 25 years ago, legendary Wyoming spaghetti westerner Gap Puchi befriended two nuns after they walked in sandals with no socks in knee-deep snow to see his collection of lighted crosses. Now the nuns say they will buy Puchi's estate, promising that it won't be cleared to make way for any luxury mansions. Cowboy State Daily's Renee Jean spoke to Mother Marie Wendy McNemedy and Sister Mary Augustine, who said their decision to buy the estate through their foundation came after months of prayer and reflection.
Gap Puchi, he was a very religious man. He wore his faith on his sleeve, and he was a Catholic. He met McEnemy 25 years ago. Much tamer story than some of his stories, like, the time the horse ran him off a cliff and they plunged down into an icy river below, or the time he fought off bears. Those are the kind of stories that are in his books. Just a wonderful, beautiful little friendship. And now, who knows what's going to happen here, but I bet it's going to be equally beautiful and wonderful.
In the end, the nuns' decision came down to the sense that the world would lose something special if bulldozers came for Puchi's historic cabin and replaced it with a mansion. There's nothing like the dusty atmosphere of a summer rodeo. Historically, though, that hasn't been the atmosphere at Cheyenne Frontier Days. As thousands of people filled the stands at Frontier Park on Wednesday, Mother Nature decided to celebrate with more than an inch of rain. And Cowboy State Daily's Andrew Rossi reports that the last week of July is notoriously stormy in southeast Wyoming.
Cheyenne Frontier Days has been held the last week of July since 1897, but they probably didn't consult any meteorologists on that, even if that information was available at the time, because that is one of the wettest weeks of the summer for Cheyenne. According to Cowboy State Daily meteorologist Don Day, a dry, dusty Frontier Days, that's the exception rather than the rule. The rule is generally that at least on 2 or 3 of those days, there are going to be afternoon showers and thunderstorms that are going to make things cooler, make things muddier, and make things just a little more unpleasant for people who are sitting in the stands. But the daddy of them all has been going for this long, and it hasn't been stopped by any kind of thunderstorms or weather or flash flood. So I imagine it's sacrilegious to change it at this point.
So when Cheyenne residents are selecting their favorite hats, buckles, and boots to wear to Cheyenne Frontier Days, they should also pair the perfect poncho to complement their ensemble. If history's any guide, they're going to need it. A 50-year-old woman working at a Casper nursing care facility is accused of tying a resident's head to a bed to keep her from moving overnight. Court records show an arrest warrant has been issued for Julie Ann Cross on charges of abuse of a vulnerable adult and false imprisonment. Cowboy State Daily's Dale Killingbeck reports that the incident took place in the early morning hours of July 14th at the NowCap Services facility.
That was found by coworkers that came in the morning, and they were trying to turn this resident president over, and they couldn't do it. And then they looked and saw that her hair had been tied to the bed with a scarf. She told an officer, according to court documents, that she tied up her hair in a scarf, but it wasn't tied to the bed, but that the patient probably was just throwing her head back and forth and somehow it got tied to the bed.
The intentional abuse, neglect, or abandonment of a vulnerable adult charge is a felony that carries a penalty of up to 10 years in prison and a $10,000 fine. I'll be back with more news right after this.
RER is transforming rare earth production and disrupting China's global dominance. The demonstration plant in Upton, Wyoming uses proprietary closed-loop technology powered by machine learning to separate rare earth elements with unmatched efficiency while recycling chemicals. Through the demonstration plant, partially financed by the Department of Energy and the Wyoming Energy Authority, RER is securing America's critical mineral supply through innovation and technology.
The airman who died in an on-duty incident with a gun Sunday at F.E. Warren Air Force Base in Cheyenne has been identified as a 21-year-old from Kentucky. Braden Loven was a defender assigned to the 90th Security Forces Squadron, 90th Security Forces Group. Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland reports that the Air Force wing overseeing the base confirmed that the man's death involved a gunshot.
Earlier this week, they were like, an airman died. It's a tragedy. And then Thursday, they were like, okay, it was this 21-year-old from Kentucky. We are now publicly acknowledging that this had to do with a gunshot. And it was at this time that division of the Air Force that oversees the bases said, yeah, we are grounding this particular gun, the M18, and using a rifle of all things in its place until we know what to do.
Loven entered active duty in November of 2023, and F.E. Warren Air Force Base was his first assignment. Well, as President Donald Trump's mission to do away with the U.S. Department of Education progresses, Wyoming is eager to exercise more control over how education happens here. That's what Governor Mark Gordon said Thursday on the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show with Jake Nichols. Cowboy State Daily's Greg Johnson reports that, in Gordon's view, Wyoming and the other states in America need to change a bit of the conversation about education.
He has just recently been named chairman of the Education Commission of the States. It's a bipartisan group that helps out with policy and helps individual states do things with education. He also talked a lot about having the states, Wyoming in particular, having more control over education. If the states know what they're doing better than the feds do. He called the feds a bunch of talking heads who try to put everything in a one-size-fits-all box.
Wyoming Superintendent of Public Instruction, Megan Degenfelder, also has been vocal about states having more autonomy, saying they know their children better than bureaucrats back east. Campbell County Commissioner Jerry Means said he would not have signed off on the letter that his county sent this week to the U.S. Department of the Interior, given a chance to review it again. The expansive letter was approved as a consent agenda item without detailed review by commissioners, but Means told Cowboy State Daily's David Madison that he now has concerns about language in it regarding public land sales.
He had some issues with some language around the disposal or sale of public land, as we know is a really hot button issue. In talking to these folks, they made it clear that this is a case-by-case basis. And so, yes, they want to have the flexibility to possibly purchase federal land, trade federal land, sell federal land for the benefit of the county. But the language was sensitive enough that at least one county commissioner would like to revise it and said he wouldn't have signed the letter had he actually read it.
Though not explicitly mentioned in the letter, Means also worried that the document might inadvertently open the door to the possibility for nuclear waste to make its way to Campbell County. And those at or near the Casper-Natrona International Airport on Wednesday afternoon saw something that would have scrambled U.S. fighter pilots during the Cold War, a Russian fighter jet flying over and landing on American soil. But it's not the Cold War anymore, and Cowboy State Daily's Dale Killingbeck reports that the twin-engine Russian-made Mikoyan MiG-29 fighter that landed in central Wyoming was unarmed and just there for some fuel.
That MiG is the only one in the United States. It's privately owned by a billionaire who was the Trump administration's initial nominee for NASA, but then he was withdrawn. They said he flew in from Oshkosh. He stopped in, got some fuel, people, talked to some people for a while, and then he took off to Montana, where he lives.
That pilot is Jarrett Isaacman, according to Oshkosh Air Show organizers. He's the billionaire owner of the plane and an astronaut who's flown missions for SpaceX. Isaacman is also the founder of Draken International, a provider of tactical fighter aircraft that's available for training the military. And that's today's news. For a deeper dive into the people and issues that affect Wyoming, check out The Roundup, conversations with the most interesting people in the Cowboy State. This week, my guest is chef, author, and Cowboy State Daily marketing strategist Piper Fenimore. You can find the link to this inspiring conversation on our website, on our YouTube channel, and wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, you'll find it in our free daily email newsletter. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Wendy Corr for Cowboy State Daily.